In the aftermath of Middle-earth's greatest conflicts, much of the devastation and despair can still be traced back to Morgoth, the first Dark Lord. Yet his legacy wasn't carried by him alone. It was fueled by his most fearsome and loyal servants, beings who continue to haunt the legends of Middle-earth. From ancient demons of flame to monstrous dragons, these creatures helped Morgoth shape the dark history of Arda. Today we delve into the ranks of Morgoth's minions to uncover their terrifying power and lasting impact. Morgoth's servants were not mere followers. They were powerful beings, each representing a different aspect of the Dark Lord's immense ability to corrupt and manipulate the world of Arda. Morgoth, the first Dark Lord, was unique among the Valar, having been the mightiest of them all before his descent into evil. His will was bent on dominating all of creation, and to achieve this, he required a vast array of subordinates, each with unique powers, attributes, and roles within his vast, sinister empire. These servants came from different origins and exhibited varying degrees of loyalty, intelligence, and brutality. Some were corrupted and twisted forms of life, others were primordial beings of fire and shadow, and yet others were grotesque, monstrous creations of Morgoth's own imagination. One of Morgoth's most fearsome qualities was his ability to manipulate and pervert the very nature of beings, often turning those originally aligned with the forces of good into instruments of terror. In the earliest ages of Middle-earth, many beings who would later serve him had once been creatures of beauty, grace, or power. Under Morgoth's influence, these beings were twisted into darker forms that reflected his own malevolence. His servants were beings who spread fear, destruction, and despair wherever they went, leaving behind a legacy of terror that would haunt Middle-earth long after Morgoth's eventual defeat. It's important to understand that Morgoth's servants weren't simply mindless beasts. Some, like Sauron, were intelligent and calculating, serving as dark lieutenants who carried out Morgoth's will with devastating efficiency. Others, like Balrogs and dragons, were forces of nature, creatures imbued with fire and destruction, capable of laying waste to entire regions of Middle-earth. The diversity of these beings made Morgoth's forces nearly unstoppable in the early battles against the Valar and the free peoples of Middle-earth. Many of Morgoth's minions were molded from the very essence of Arda itself, reflecting his ability to warp the natural world to his purposes. For example, the Balrogs were once Maiar, spirits akin to the Valar, but Morgoth's corruption turned them into fiery demons of shadow and flame. Dragons, on the other hand, were a creation of Morgoth's deep malice and cunning, combining terrifying power with immense cruelty. Morgoth's servants didn't just fight his wars, they embodied his will and spread his influence far and wide, extending his reach even when he was confined to the depths of his strongholds. Morgoth's legions of servants were not monolithic, and they were not uniform in their loyalty or motivations. Some, like Sauron, served Morgoth because they believed in his vision of domination over all life. Others, like Ungoliant, were allies of convenience, serving Morgoth only so long as it suited their own desires. Yet regardless of their individual motivations, all of Morgoth's servants contributed to the spread of his darkness across Middle-earth, leaving a legacy that would outlast even Morgoth himself. This complex web of servitude and allegiance created a hierarchy within Morgoth's forces, with each creature or being playing a specific role in his plans. Some, like the Orcs and Trolls, were used as the brute force of his armies, often leading the charge in his wars against the elves and men. Others, like the Balrogs and dragons, were deployed as weapons of mass destruction, only unleashed when Morgoth needed to crush his enemies utterly. In this way, Morgoth's servants were not just tools, they were extensions of his malevolent will, each playing a crucial role in his grand design for dominion over all of Arda. Among Morgoth's most infamous and loyal servants were the Orcs. Their origins lie in a tale of ultimate corruption. Elves, the firstborn children of Ilúvatar, were captured by Morgoth in the early days of Middle-earth. Through unspeakable torture and dark sorcery, Morgoth twisted their forms, breaking their spirits and turning them into orcs, warped reflections of the beings they once were. Orcs became Morgoth's foot soldiers, bred for war, cruelty, and destruction. They were numerous, relentless, and utterly loyal to their master, not out of love or devotion, but out of fear and a complete submission to his dark will. Over time, the Orcs would come to represent one of the most terrifying aspects of Morgoth's influence, the perversion of what was once good into something irredeemably evil. While Orcs were formidable in large numbers, their strength lay in their ability to swarm their enemies. They were not individually strong, but their savagery and their overwhelming numbers made them deadly on the battlefield. Orcs thrived in chaos, and under the leadership of powerful lieutenants like Sauron, they became an unstoppable force of destruction. These creatures lived for battle, thriving on the torment they inflicted on others. Orcs were the backbone of Morgoth's armies, often seen as expendable yet essential in carrying out his campaigns of terror. Trolls, another of Morgoth's creations, were beings of enormous size and strength. Unlike orcs, whose cunning and ferocity made them versatile in war, trolls were pure muscle, designed to smash through defenses and cause havoc in enemy ranks. These brutish creatures were a testament to Morgoth's ability to take the raw elements of Arda and shape them into tools of war. Though they were slow and unintelligent, their immense strength made them deadly adversaries on the battlefield. Morgoth created various types of trolls, such as stone trolls, cave trolls, and hill trolls, each with its own unique attributes and weaknesses. Despite their terrifying strength, trolls were vulnerable to sunlight, which could turn them to stone, a flaw that severely limited their effectiveness in daylight battles. In contrast to the brutish nature of trolls, Morgoth's werewolves were far more cunning and lethal. Werewolves were dark creatures bred by Sauron during his time as Morgoth's lieutenant. These beings combined the ferocity of wolves with a twisted intelligence, making them far more dangerous than their mundane counterparts. Werewolves were vicious hunters, often acting as Morgoth's enforcers, stalking the lands of Middle-earth with ruthless efficiency. Kar-Sharot, the greatest of all werewolves, became a legendary terror, his bloodlust and size unmatched in the history of Morgoth's dark creations. Equally terrifying were the vampires, mysterious beings of darkness whose exact nature remains shrouded in legend. Among the most infamous of Morgoth's vampires was Thuringwethil, the messenger of Sauron. These creatures were less numerous than orcs or trolls, but far more deadly in their own right. Vampires thrived in the shadows, using their shape-shifting abilities and stealth to strike fear into the hearts of their enemies. While little is known about the broader role of vampires in Morgoth's armies, their presence added another layer of terror to the Dark Lord's ranks. No discussion of Morgoth's most powerful servants would be complete without mentioning dragons. the fire-breathing monsters that left a trail of devastation wherever they went. Glaurung, known as the Father of Dragons, was the first and one of the most fearsome of these creatures. His cunning was matched only by his cruelty, and he played a key role in Morgoth's plans, spreading chaos and destruction across Beleriand. Glaurung's ability to manipulate the minds of his victims made him more than just a creature of brute force. He was an intelligent and strategic weapon, capable of breaking both the bodies and spirits of those who stood against Morgoth. Uncalagon the Black, another of Morgoth's great dragons, was even more destructive, with his immense size and power making him a weapon of last resort during the War of Wrath. When Uncalagon was finally defeated, his fall was so great that it destroyed a significant portion of Morgoth's fortifications. Perhaps the most iconic of Morgoth's servants were the Balrogs, demons of shadow and flame, who were once Maya like Sauron, but were corrupted by Morgoth early in the history of Arda. The Balrogs, led by Gothmog, were fearsome beings who carried whips of fire and sowed terror wherever they went. Their loyalty to Morgoth was absolute, and they served as his elite enforcers, brought forth only in the most desperate of battles. These fiery demons were instrumental in many of Morgoth's victories, their very presence enough to shatter the morale of even the bravest warriors. Gothmog, in particular, was a figure of legend, known for slaying some of the mightiest heroes of the First Age. One of the more enigmatic figures in Morgoth's service was Ungoliant, a primordial being who took the form of a massive spider. Ungoliant was not a servant in the traditional sense, but rather an ally of convenience. Her insatiable hunger for light and power made her a dangerous ally, even to Morgoth himself. Together, Morgoth and Ungoliant brought about one of the most significant events in the history of Arda, the destruction of the two trees of Valinor. Ungoliant's power was immense, and her betrayal of Morgoth showcased the dangerous nature of his alliances. At the pinnacle of Morgoth's hierarchy was Sauron, the most powerful and loyal of all his servants. A Maya who was initially a servant of Aule, Sauron was drawn to Morgoth's power and vision of domination. Sauron became Morgoth's lieutenant, responsible for overseeing much of his master's dark works. After Morgoth's defeat, Sauron continued his master's legacy, becoming the second Dark Lord and bringing Middle-earth to the brink of ruin during the Second and Third Ages. Sauron's cunning, intelligence, and mastery of dark sorcery made him a force to be reckoned with, and his influence would linger long after Morgoth's fall. Morgoth's minions represent more than just instruments of destruction. They are manifestations of a much deeper and older conflict between light and darkness, good and evil, that has shaped the history of Arda from its very creation. Morgoth himself, as the original source of all malice and corruption, stands as the embodiment of that primal darkness, while his servants, the Orcs, trolls, werewolves, vampires, dragons, Balrogs, and dark spirits, are reflections of his unrelenting desire to warp and dominate the world. Through them, Morgoth spread his malevolence far and wide, corrupting not only the land and the creatures within it, but also the very hearts and minds of the beings he encountered. The narrative of Morgoth's servants offers more than just a recounting of monstrous deeds. It touches upon a fundamental theme in Tolkien's mythology: the corrupting influence of power and the struggle between creation and destruction. Morgoth, as the original Dark Lord, embodies the desire for absolute control and the power to reshape reality according to his will. His servants are, in many ways, the tragic outcomes of that desire. Beings who've been twisted and shaped by his darkness, many of whom were once noble and beautiful, now reduced to instruments of terror and ruin. The theme of corruption runs deep in Tolkien's legendarium, showing how even the mightiest and most pure beings can be turned to evil if they fall prey to the seductive promises of power. But the tale of Morgoth's minions is also a reminder of the cyclical nature of good and evil. Although Morgoth was eventually defeated and his servants scattered or destroyed, the seeds of his malice lingered, giving rise to new threats, most notably in the form of Sauron. Sauron, Morgoth's most trusted lieutenant, not only survived his master's fall, but also inherited his dark legacy, becoming the second Dark Lord and continuing the cycle of darkness that plagued Middle-earth. This passing of the torch from Morgoth to Sauron speaks to the enduring nature of evil, suggesting that while individual agents of darkness may be defeated, the broader force they represent can never be fully eradicated. As long as there is light, there will always be shadows lurking, waiting to re-emerge. However, the stories of Morgoth's minions also convey a message of hope and resilience. Despite their overwhelming power and the immense destruction they wrought, none of Morgoth's servants were invincible. Each, in their way, was brought down by the courage, wisdom, and determination of the free peoples of Middle-earth. Dragons, despite their ferocity, were slain by mortal hands. The Balrogs, fearsome as they were, met their end in battles that have become the stuff of legend. Even Sauron, after inheriting the mantle of Morgoth's malevolence, was eventually defeated, not once, but twice, proving that no matter how dark the times, light has the strength to endure and overcome. Tolkien's world is built on this delicate balance between light and dark, and Morgoth's servants stand as a testament to the destructive potential of unchecked power and greed. Yet as formidable as they were, their stories also highlight the resilience of good. In the end, the darkness that Morgoth and his minions spread was always countered by acts of bravery, sacrifice, and unity. Whether it was the defiance of the elves in the face of Morgoth's relentless onslaught, or the later struggles of men against Sauron, the lesson remains clear. No matter how deep the darkness, it can always be overcome by the light. This thematic exploration also serves as a reflection on human nature itself. Tolkien, through the lens of his characters and world, often explored the concepts of temptation, corruption, and redemption. Morgoth's minions, especially figures like Sauron, serve as cautionary tales of what happens when beings forsake their natural roles and instead seek dominion over others. Yet there is always a choice, as seen in characters like Maedhros and Fingolfin, who, despite their tragic fates, stood defiantly against Morgoth and his servants, refusing to yield to despair or darkness. Ultimately, the story of Morgoth's servants isn't just a tale of villainy, it's a powerful reminder of the importance of resistance, hope, and unity in the face of seemingly insurmountable evil. As long as there are those willing to stand against the darkness, no force, no matter how mighty or malevolent, can triumph forever. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into the world of Morgoth's minions and the lasting impact they had on the history of Middle-earth, there's so much more to explore in the rich and intricate lore of Tolkien's universe. From the epic battles of the First Age to the struggles of men, elves, and dwarves in the later ages, the stories of Middle-earth are filled with endless layers of history, myth, and meaning. Be sure to like this video if you found it informative, and don't forget to share it with your friends who are just as passionate about Tolkien's world as you are. Let's spread the love for Middle-earth far and wide. Also, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you won't miss out on any of our future videos. We're constantly diving into different aspects of Tolkien's legendarium, from character analyses to exploring the vast landscapes of Middle-earth, and we wouldn't want you to miss any of it. Whether you're interested in learning more about the lore, want to explore theories about the upcoming adaptations, or simply love Tolkien's work, this is the place for you. And if you have any suggestions or topics you'd like us to cover next, drop a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Your input helps shape the content we create, and we're always excited to engage with the community. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep adventuring through the pages of Middle-earth.